last year, Natassja Chadwick's 2 children were diagnosed with an extremely rare genetic condition, which means they have to avoid sun and UV exposure. Now, when you hear that the little girl and boy are just 6 and 4, I think you really do start to get a sense of just how profoundly this must affect this family's life. And Natassja is with us this afternoon. So lovely to have you here, Natassja.
Thank you.
Just tell us, first of all, when you realised that there was something not quite right.
The first time anything really happened was when we were in Blackpool, and Madison was only 2 and Isaac was a few months old, and we were in the car and she was screaming that she was burned and the sun had burnt her, and I put it down to me because I'd forgot sun cream that day, and I actually asked for some sun cream off one of the other mums in the wildlife park, and I just thought I've not put on enough and blamed myself that it was all me. But even we obviously had a day at the zoo, and then even in the car, the car still UV still gets through the car and windows, and it's a reflection of the sea and on snow, and it's not as simple as once you're inside a building you're safe, and that wouldn't have helped. But every summer we had her screaming and clawing at her skin, asking for water, in and out of the sink all night with my husband carrying her out of bed to try and cool her down. Nothing works. Once they're in that state, that's it.
And at what point did you decide to seek medical attention for it?
I always did as soon as she had one of these attacks, but because there was nothing on the skin, I took her to the GPs, and we were told it could be hand, foot and mouth. Took her to the hospital and A&E a few times, and I was told it was a reaction that I've changed something in, washing powder and all the usual things. She was given Piriton, and none of this helped. So I obviously social media, put it on, can anyone help me? And it just kind of got to a point where everyone just said, no, it's nothing, there's nothing there. Until the first day of Easter last year, she went out for the day with all the friends playing outside, and she come in and she was screaming all night, up all night, again with the water, itching, hands and feet hurt. And it was at that point I went to the GP and said, look, I'm not doing this anymore, there's something wrong. And unluckily, there are other people on the island. There's 6 other people on the island with the condition, as rare as it is, and our GP has actually seen one of these people and said, let's rule this out. And that's what it is.
And I mean, it must have been a devastating diagnosis, but in some way, I suppose having an answer to what was happening must have been some sort of relief.
To be honest, and because it is so rare, I mean, it's classed as an ultra rare disease. Only 5 to 10,000 people in the world are actually impacted by it. We were just told, this is what it is, there you go. And we walked away. We had very little, I mean, this isn't negative about anything on the Isle of Man, but because it is so rare, I mean, even Older Hay, we went to see Older Hay, they've had hardly any contact with it. There's nobody that can kind of help and guide us. That's where the British Porphyria Association, they help. There's 8 porphyrias, and they help families. They give information and any financial support they need to try and help awareness. And they were fantastic at telling us exactly what it was, what we needed to do to look after her. And now Isaac too, because he's now been diagnosed with it as well.
But he hasn't shown any specific symptoms.
He's not shown any symptoms up till now. I've constantly, since Madison was 2, 3, and we started feeling like there was something going on outside. We thought maybe it was a grass or something, that we realised to kind of reduce her exposure a bit. So he's always had limited exposure anyway. So they always just give you a bit of a picture of how they're dressed. As soon as they go outside, they're in football skins, trousers and tops. They have to wear socks and shoes. My daughter wears gloves because her hands are damaged. She nearly got sepsis last year because the sun had caused an infection into her knuckles and it was spreading up into her arms. So now she wears gloves. They wear like scarves, hats, sunglasses, and there's also special creams that they wear. So when it's outside and sunny and everyone's complaining how hot it is and wearing next to nothing, they're literally covered like that. carrying umbrellas around at all times in the heat just to try and protect them a bit.
I mean, that must just be so hugely limiting. I'm guessing on a day like this, actually, you look out the window and think, oh, thank goodness it might,
To be honest, that's where I'm sure you'll agree that's where people are wrong, because the UV still get through the clouds, they still get through the fog. You don't realise it. And I think that's where it's misleading. So that's where the information and awareness comes in, that we would have been the same. Well, we would have looked outside and gone, yes. And then we realise from research and that actually, no, it's not that simple. Like, it's hidden dangers. It's just, you can't see it.
And as you said, Natassja, this is ultra rare. It seems incredible that there are so many people actually living with this in the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Why have your children got it?
So it's genetics. So unfortunately for us, neither me or my husband have the condition, but a mixture of our genes has caused the reaction. So now it is a genetic thing that they will pass on to, well, the chances are they'll pass it on to their children and our future grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That's why I'm so passionate and fighting so hard to get the condition made aware. We've had a big fight the last 6 months in terms of getting the medical help they need, because it is costly. So we've had problems with being able to see the specialist. We finally won to be able to go to London and see a specialist who wants to see them annually. But now we have to fight for the right to go and see medical care, which is needed. So that's why I'm doing fundraising this year. So I signed up to do a 10-mile run in Plymouth, the Great South Run, and that's in October. So I'm raising money for that. But I've also organised a shadow hopping fun day.
Gosh, that sounds exciting. What does that mean?
So it's a family fun day like everybody else gets, that lots of people do, with bouncy castles and face painting. But these kind of events my children can't go to, or if they do go to, it's for a limited time. So I wanted to do one where it's all under shadows in the shade, so everything's in gazebos, marquees. Inside we're going to have parasols everywhere, just to try and make it as safe as possible. So the shadow hopping I did steal from America, where in America they have all these camps where they do similar things, where they spend all day inside and go to sleep, and the evenings they go out and do baseball and go swimming and play with their friends, where it's dark and they're not going to be affected. So that's on the 2nd of September. I've got Spider-Man's going to be there. We've got face painting, nail varnish, all glow-in-the-dark stuff, all UV things that I'm going to use. We've got the IQ Academy. My brother Ben Qualtra is a football coach, so he's going to come along and do some football. And then in the evening we're going to go inside and have a disco. So we're going to have all this glow-in-the-dark stuff for kids, so they can go inside, have a disco. But we've got loads on in the day. Story time, Davidson's ice cream, some reptiles. There's just loads.
What a fantastic idea. And it's just a great way of making sure your children don't miss out on what everybody else takes for granted.
That's the biggest thing.
What happens with regards to school?
Okay. I've got to say Victoria Road have been fantastic. I'm well aware that I have been hard work this year trying to make sure that things are in place. So if you look up above now, the lights that we've got, these are actually, I think, UV lighting. So even the lights themselves can cause damage. So that's one thing that the school are going to get changed. But that's another like £7,000 it costs to change the lighting for one room. But they've been fantastic, that making sure she's covered up, and it's more awareness. I did want to mention the treatment. This is a condition that's going to last forever. There is no treatment, there's no cure. There is one thing that is being developed in Europe, and NICE are trying to get it available in the NHS in the UK. It's an implant. It's available in Europe. It costs around £7,000 for the implant, and it only lasts 2 months. So we'd be looking at, with travel, about 100 grand a year to get both my children treated with this implant. And this is just kind of there's petitions going, and the implant would make such a difference to people with EPP's life, because it would mean that they were allowed to go out, they were allowed to look after their kids and do those things in the day that they can't even work. Like, how would you get a job in some places in the world where you're not outside? It's so restricting having this condition.
And I suppose at the moment you're just dealing with the sort of the day-to-day getting through, but thinking about their future must be heartbreaking in some ways.
Yeah, we would like to be able to save up, so when they're 18, I mean, at the moment, the idea of them going travelling, we can't go on holidays abroad. They're not going to be able to travel the world and see all these different countries because of the condition. So we'd like to be able to save and be able to allow them just 2 months where they've got this and they can go and be normal.
Really poignant, just the discussion we've been having with Dr. Henrietta Hewitt, talking about childhood obesity and encouraging children not to have a sedentary lifestyle as many seem to be. And you were saying, actually, your children, they can't do the sort of things that we were talking about.
We're struggling at the moment, and we are finally imagine some holidays. We can't open the door and let our kids go out to play. We can't take them to the beach and say, we're going to spend the day on the beach. So costs, like you mentioned, costs, and how that impacts the healthy lifestyle. They can't go out for walks if it's sunny, or we have to restrict that. So as much as like I appreciate like saying, oh, let's go on a scooter instead, that would be amazing, but my kids can't always do that. Going for walks, they can't do that. Going swimming in the sea, outside for football tournaments. One of the guys that has got EPP, who lives in Ballasalla, he plays football, but how do you expect a 19-year-old man to put this cream that looks like foundation on to go just to be able to play football? There's a lot of balance. And then obviously keeping them inside, what do we do if we keep them inside? We put a film on and give them some snacks and say, let's all have a film day, or let's make some cakes. It's all, we're telling them not to be active and to give them things food wise to keep them busy, and throwing iPads at them, putting films on, computer games. What can you do that's not outdoors?
Gosh, Natassja, it's just so insightful listening to you, and I think you're absolutely incredible with everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here.